Our next presentation is by Anand Joshi of Tractica. Tractica is a market research firm that's caught our attention because they have a focus on computer vision and also a focus on deep learning. Anand's presentation is going to focus on computer vision. I expect we'll have one of his colleagues who focuses on deep learning here for one of our future meetings for another presentation focusing there. Anand is a senior analyst with Tractica. He has over 20 years experience in industry, both as a market researcher and developing hardware and software products. Really glad to have him here today. Anand, take it away.
All right, so this is a fairly high-level presentation about the computer vision market and the technology and overall applications. And I'm sure everybody will have your own comments and suggestions and questions. I'll try to answer as many as I could, but if there are disagreements, I'm happy to talk it over a glass of beer later in the evening. First, quickly about Tractica. Tractica is a market research firm. We specialize in computer vision, among other areas, biometrics, digital health, wearable, automation, robotics, AR, VR, some of the areas that we specialize in. And we focus on the research reports, so we sell research report along with subscriptions. We also do analyst inquiry sessions, consulting projects, go-to-market surveys. So you're welcome to go to our website, tractica.com. There is a whole bunch of information there, a lot of blogs, articles, including the research report. So when we started looking at computer vision, the challenge was, what is computer vision? We found that computer vision is being used in machines, it's used in cars, it's used in medical, it's used in surveillance, smartphones, wherever. And one of the things that we had to decide that what are we trying to address in this market research? Is this something that's going to be at a fairly high level, or we could keep drilling as much as we could? So at a high level, you have applications, and you have hardware and software, and then you have chipsets, and you have software and libraries, so on and so forth. So this particular report and what I'm going to present is at the application level. And we have done some separation between hardware and software. And then the other thing that we have done is that we have defined devices which are specialized or which focus on computer vision as part of the market. So smartphone is not really a market for computer vision. Smartphone application is, but smartphone itself has been excluded because smartphone never gets marketed as a computer device, computer vision device. It's a smartphone device. Whereas an application that's AR that runs on a smartphone, is an example of computer vision. So essentially, just a note about computer vision technology. In doing research, we did primary research and secondary research and conducted surveys, so on and so forth. And, like we were just talking that, when fog is there, the systems are not necessarily perfect. So we realized that, computers even today, are notoriously inadequate. They do a really good job, when they're trained. Deep learning is one of the technology that we found was very, liked by everybody who developed the application. But, essentially, when you're trying to recognize something in a picture, you're trying to guess an unknown solution to an unknown problem. So you almost have to teach the computer what to look for and then come up with a solution. And so that's going to be an interesting way forward as deep learning gets more and more embedded into computer vision. The chipsets will emerge, and the whole software libraries will emerge, and the whole ecosystem will build out about that. 100% accuracy is still elusive. It's pretty close, but even OCR, that's one of the oldest technologies. I try to test my smartphone all the time with my handwriting, and it could never recognize my handwriting, so I don't know if the problem is with me or with the technology, but even today, it's not 100%. There have been reports that it's about 99%, and if you do good job of writing, it can get to a fairly good level where consumers would want it. So 100% is really the ultimate goal of any computer vision system. And the other thing that we realized that there are a lot of devices that do this computation of computer vision, and then there are other devices that send the data to server, and there the computing is done. So really, those are the two different application usage areas and how the computer vision is being used. So since computer vision is such a horizontal field, you can find application in multiple areas, we came up with the 6 application areas and focused on those. Automotive, sports and entertainment, consumer and mobile, robotics and machine vision, medical, security, and surveillance. Again, machine vision in the context of this report strictly relates to the machines that are being used in the industrial environment. And one interesting thing that we found is that devices or the hardware make up majority of the market. So software definitely has value, but not as much as hardware as it stands right now. There are different business models that are being used. So software as a service, for example, is very popular in security and surveillance. You throw this set of cameras in a mall, and then you charge on a monthly basis to retailer. Technology licensing is popular with chip companies or some software companies. You have IPs that get licensed, and then there is a one-time payment and royalty. One-time payment is very popular with consumer. You buy a device, you pay one time, and it's yours. And then pay as you go was something that we found very popular in sports application area. So there were companies who would install the camera in a sports ground, for example, and these broadcasters would pay as and when they need it. So really, each of these application areas have their own business model and their own characteristics. And I got more slides, going deeper into each one of them. But really, if I was to summarize at a very high level, what is computer vision market today? It's fragmented. It's startup dominated. So there are literally 100, 200, 500 startups trying to do different things. The word I use is a rookie quarterback. There is this kid who won college championship. Now he's out in NBA, and everybody thinks that he's going to win 20 Super Bowls. But yeah, sure. We have won college championship, and we got 20 more years to go before we really take off. So in a way, it's ready for takeoff. Killer apps are being awaited. So there is three sectors that we are very much bullish about: automotive, robotics, and the consumer, where we see that some killer applications emerging. Virtual reality, for example, is one of the areas we feel that is going to take off. There are issues with it, but we'll keep watching. Self-guiding robots, there is a huge potential there. And of course, automotive, the autonomous cars have another big potential. So if you do a little more digging into the 6 application markets, this is what you will find. So on the automotive side, the volume is relatively high. So these are all the devices that typically get sold to automotive manufacturers. And at the moment, there is no aftermarket market for computer vision-based devices, meaning that most of the devices come pre-installed in your car or whatever vehicle you're driving. Sports and entertainment is a primarily software play. These are the things that you would use in a movie or in a sports broadcast. So you have these cameras that capture data, you take it to server, and then you do all kinds of things with the very high-end machines on it. Consumer and mobile. As always, the volume is really high. A lot of devices, gaming, smartphones, devices that plug into smartphones. All kinds of things are happening on the consumer and mobile side. So there is a big hardware play there. There is also a software play. And at some point, maybe your cameras will come equipped with stereo vision or maybe fancy cameras, then you'll just sell libraries that go with it. So you could go buy any tablet or any device, for example, and then you would customize the software for applications. So there is also a software play there. Robotics and machine vision, the volume is medium. It's not as high as consumer, but when the self-guiding robots come into play, and rather than becoming a general-purpose robot, they become multiple-purpose robots. That's when we'll see a lot of computer vision-based system and volume picking up there. Medical is low. These are very high-value products, if you will. They give very critical information to the doctor, and they get used in multiple ways today, but they tend to be priced very high, and that will remain to be the case. So, medical market has a low volume. Security and surveillance, there could be a hardware as well as a software play here. You can have cameras connected in public places or at home, and then, some cameras could be dumb, where some cameras could be smart. So there is a play for both hardware and software there. So if I was to do a forecast based on the data that's available today, based on the research that we've done in terms of the macroeconomic factors, the feedback that we are seeing, the overall market trends, what consumers have told us, is this something good to have versus must have? These are the numbers that we came up with. So it starts at around $5.7 billion today, and it goes up to $33.3 billion at a fantastic CAGR of 42%. And again, that high number is there because everybody is very optimistic. Everybody that we spoke to, hey, and that's actually reflected in the survey that you just put there. They're all, the desired accuracy is not there, but everybody thinks that this is useful. So, people would shell out and buy, a device for their cars if it's available today, that we just heard in the conversation. Consumer segment is expected to grow very fast. As you can see, there is a big chunk here by 2019. And a big portion of that is actually coming from the gaming devices. So Microsoft Kinect, for example, is already doing very well. We expect that VR is going to change a lot of things in the future. So when VR devices and applications come in the picture, that's going to be a big chunk there. The other two segments that are going to do very well is automotive. Again, we are already seeing some traction. Bits and pieces are already in place. Who knows, Google will release their fully autonomous car tomorrow, and assuming that all the regulatory issues are overcome and legal issues are overcome, that there could be a big uptick there, but not in the next 5 years. It's probably another 5 years away. Robotics and machine vision is another area where there is going to be a relatively good uptick going forward. And then, medical, security and surveillance and sports and entertainment will have their own niche, and they will also grow. In terms of hardware versus software, as you can see, hardware makes up the majority of the market. I think that's about 20% of the market is software, 80% is hardware. And that is going to be the case moving forward. Most of our observation was that most of the devices are very custom made. So you almost have to have a very special device that plugs, for a given application. The value of software will pick up when you would have a general purpose device that could be customized. So if there was a car and SDK was available for that car, the value of software will go up. And right now, Android is, Google is trying to do that with Android, but by the time it picks up, it's definitely not in the next 5 years time horizon. So I'm going to spend some time going into more details in all these application areas. And so if you look at the automotive, there are certain drivers and certain challenges. So for example, regulations are helping. There is a regulation that's going to be coming into effect, I think 2017, that will mandate that cars, at a certain weight limit have to have rear-end camera. There are certain regulations in Europe which require that you need to have automatic emergency braking AEB systems. So that's going to drive people wanting such devices and ultimately computer vision. Self-driving cars is generating a lot of buzz. You see videos, you see blogs, you see a lot of press release on self-driving cars. And people are curious, people like that. So if there is a self-driving car that's out in the market that even partially does that, and even if that gets into accident, people would like to try that. So it'll be a matter of time, but that buzz is definitely helping. However, there are reliability issues on the downside. So for example, if a self-driving car gets into an accident, who pays, who's liable? Is it the hardware guy? Is it the car manufacturer? Is it me? Is it the company who developed library? Who knows? I mean, there are a lot of people at play here, and since I'm not driving, somebody else has to pay. And so that is a big topic up for discussion right now, and it'll be some time before that can be solved. Human factors. Do I really trust my car more than me? I mean, I don't. If there is an emergency, I instantly take the control and I step on the brake. And so there is going to be a challenge there in the sense that, is my autonomous car or the system really smarter than me, and why should I trust it? And then finally, security is another interesting challenge. Now you have a connected car, you're connected to internet, somebody hacks into it, causes accident. Do you really believe in the security that's in your car? That's going to be a big question mark. A lot of people will hold off their purchase. So some of the areas, that we're seeing a lot of traction today is the ADAS. For example, your lane departure warning. That's an example of ADAS. Driver alertness warning. So you have camera. We just heard a presentation on that. Obstacle detection system. So that they've been out for some time. Mercedes has that. Parking assist. So you get out of the car, press a button, car parks itself. Audi actually showed a demonstration in which there was actually a mobile application which you could use to park the car. And so there are a lot of stuff happening, a lot of things happening in automotive. Bits and pieces are in place. They are going to get better and better. Rear view camera, for example, pretty soon it will be standard in a lot of cars. So the number of electronics based on computer vision will continue to increase in automotive sector. Again, it's dominated by hardware at the moment, unless somebody comes up with an SDK or some sort of a software development kit which would facilitate development of applications. And then the ultimate vision is the autonomous vehicle. We feel that we are further away from seeing those, at least not in the next 5 years or 10 years of horizon. So in terms of market, we are going to go from about 1.3 billion to 5.5 billion at a CAGR of 33.7%. And most of these charts, you'll notice that Asia Pacific is a big market. That's because China, Japan, India, East Asia and Australia, they make up for a big chunk there, followed by North America and Asia Pacific. Latin America and Middle East typically make a smaller portion. On the consumer and mobile, it's a very different story. Everybody wants a cooler device. So, today I have Xbox, then I want Xbox 360, and then, I want Xbox Infinity, and then I want VR headset. So these kids, they want new things. I want new things because of them, and then everybody in the family suddenly is ready to try different devices and applications. So consumers are wanting cooler applications, VR, virtual reality. I'm expecting it to be a killer application. Whether it really turns out to be or not, we'll have to see. There are people who complain dizziness after using the VR headsets. Some people, have trouble inputting into it. I feel that input to VR, is still a problem that needs to be solved. And there are a lot of applications out there on the consumer side which are nice to have. Somebody came up with a scanner that you plug into iPhone and you scan the object in front of you and then you take a 3D printout. Sure, it'll be good to have, but we don't know if it's must-have. I don't know if every household will buy it. So really, there are different factors in place, but overall, consumers want new devices, they want to try new things. There will be some winners, there will be some killer applications. And then camera is becoming ubiquitous. Your tablet has camera, smartphone has camera, pretty soon your car will have camera, your house will have camera. So there are different things you could do with that camera. And that actually ultimately will drive the need for computer vision. So today, most of the traction in the market is on gaming. So as I mentioned, Microsoft Kinect is a big one. Gesture recognition is actually getting a lot of interest, and there are different areas. For example, you could input into a computer. You could input into your home automation system, for example. You could use it to turn on and off lights, so on and so forth. So there are different ways in which the whole gesture recognition could be used in consumer application. Smartphones and camera applications, another big area. Used to be that your camera would just have a display. Now that display recognizes face and it highlights that, so you know that whether the face is in the camera in the range or not. So there will be a lot more applications. Your smartphone camera, you could do image stitching. All kinds of things you could do with your camera now. And so those applications will continue to be there. Probably not as high value add, but they will definitely continue to increase. AR and VR, there is definite potential there. Again, a lot of buzz being generated. AR, though, in a way, AR, in our opinion, will be a software play, meaning that if there is a device that's got camera in it, in theory, you could use it to create an AR application. And there will be customized applications. For example, if there is a museum, you point your tablet at a particular picture or something, and then the whole information pops up. So that's a typical use case for AR, and we'll continue to see more applications emerge. OCR has been there for some time. It's always going to be there moving forward. Wearables with vision. So now you have camera. Police are using that frequently. When they go out. So that's another interesting area where you have this huge footage of video around you. What do you do with it? How do you store it? How do you extract relevant information? So on and so forth. So that's another area that we're watching. So in terms of market, we will go to 17.5 billion at a CAGR of 61%. And again, the huge uptick there is the prediction that we are thinking VR and AR will catch up in a couple of years, and there will be a huge growth. In the robotics and machine vision market, obviously the need for automation is there. And traditional systems in computer vision-based, at least, or camera-based systems in this market were fixed. So you would have this conveyor belt, for example, and you would have a screw coming in, and then you want to inspect that and quality, you want to do a QA inspection. So you'd have this camera sitting there, and the camera would have a given lighting and location. So you take a picture and you compare that to a predetermined picture, and then you have go, no-go results. With this new deep learning, what is happening is that people are able to train the camera to do multiple things. So you can take the same camera, use it for number 2 screw today and number 10 screw for tomorrow. And that actually will lower cost for a lot of these systems, and there will be very interesting emerging applications there. Now add to that a robot that guides itself, goes to a station where there is a conveyor belt and it does the thing. So now we are automating things at a lower cost. And therefore, if I'm a manufacturer, it's good for me to have that kind of thing. So there is a fair amount of interest in robotics and machine vision. There is a company called Rethink Robotics. They actually have an SDK coming up with the robots. So you could program that robots, like for a smartphone. So again, a lot of interesting stuff happening on the self-guiding robots. There is also being used for measurement, alignment. So, you have a system that captures the picture and measures it, and whether it's, again, it gives you go, no go. So a lot of stuff happening in robotics and machine vision, and we expect that market to reach $5.5 billion by 2019 at a CAGR of 29%. So again, fairly steep curve there. Medical is actually in a relative sense, is a niche market. The information that a 3D image gives you by capturing multiple 2D images is tremendous. Imagine looking at a picture of a brain, taking multiple snapshots and combining them into a 3D. You have huge advantage because now you can see everything in 3D, where the defects are and what needs to be corrected, so on and so forth. So this is something that physicians love. They really find this to be very useful. And there is a lot of application areas come around, in particular 3D in medical. So CT, MRI, ultrasound, all of them take series of pictures, combine them into 3D, and then you can highlight a artery, or you can highlight areas of brain, whatever needs to be looked at in further details by rotating them or expanding them, so on and so forth. Dentistry is another interesting area where the 3D imaging is also coming into picture. So you take X-rays, but X-rays today are 2D. So there are devices out there that will take multiple pictures, and now you can look at your teeth from all the angles by rotating, so on and so forth. So that's also one of the interesting areas for computer vision. Augmented reality. So doctor wears a Google Glass or some sort of monitor, and then you stare at the person you are cutting, and then the image pops up that, hey, this lever doesn't look right, do something about it. So there are applications emerging on augmented reality also on the medical side. So, the medical market get to $1.5 billion at a modest in relative terms, CAGR by 2019. But again, this is a slow and steady market, which is very much inelastic to price. So, our expectation is that the price over there will remain more or less steady. Sports and entertainment is another area where we have seen a lot of interest. And if you look at the whole movie industry, computer vision has been in use for a long time. So most of the companies and players in this category are services companies or the ones that just software play. There is not much device play here. So obviously, when you're making a movie, you would want to create a powerful effect, and and you would want a nice computer vision system to supplement that. On the sports side, there has been increasing adoption of cameras, and the way people are using them is that you place these cameras around your perimeter, and you capture multiple images. So you must have seen an NBA and games such like that. Suddenly the frame freezes, and you have this 3D view, and then you rotate it, and you analyze the strategy. So that's all being used not only for broadcast, but also for training. You could use that for, improved decisions. So now you can see through it, and better decisions are possible. And then some of the applications where this is being used is that, I'm sure you see this every day. The ball or the puck, in ice hockey, you see that green or blue line behind it. That's through computer vision applications. There is a marker in an NFL, so that's actually imposed on the picture that's coming in. 3D imaging, again, you freeze the frame, extract 3D image. And then there are a lot of effects in movies that are very common computer vision effects, for example, image stitching, warping, 3D image extraction, so on and so forth. So those are very common in the entertainment industry. VR broadcast is something that we came across very recently, and Google actually has a YouTube channel dedicated to VR video now. In a sense, you put a 360-degree camera on the field, and it gives you a picture as if you are sitting there. You have a 360-degree view. And so that, by placing that camera location right in front of the game being played or, wearing it, you can get a very interesting perspective on what's going on there, although it's in very infancy at the moment. The market will go from about $400 million to $1.37 billion by 2019. Again, at a reasonable, good CAGR of 25.9%. On the security and surveillance side, this is another area where a lot of computer vision systems are coming in the picture. So obviously, terrorism has driven need for cameras. And there are cameras being installed in every city, malls, airports, so on and so forth. And they're also being used by law enforcement. The big concern there is the privacy. Do I like being tracked? And if so, what can I do to discourage? And there will be lawsuits and things like that as soon as cameras become ubiquitous. But there will be some challenges to be overcome. However, the same system that gets used for a security at an airport, for example, has been very useful in a retail environment. So take, for example, person tracking. You could use that at an airport to track a movement of a person. But you could use the same system in a retail environment where you can track the behavior of a consumer who comes in. And so now suddenly you have the same, one other market for you, and it could be used to track the consumer behavior and then increase your sales, so on and so forth. Facial recognition, again, very, very must for law enforcement. Biometrics, so your eye retina scan. Video storage and analysis, that's one very interesting offshoot of the security and surveillance application, because now you have this tons and tons and tons of data coming into you at 1080p, whatever resolution. And where do you store it? Pretty soon you have 10, 20, 30 cameras and you're going to run out of space. So there are applications emerging that are letting you, essentially trim that video, compress it, or extract the moments that are of interest to you. So there is going to be a market for that, for video storage and analysis moving forward. Drone-based surveillance, again, you have these drones coming in there, and there are a lot of them are equipped with camera. There will be some interesting applications emerge. Currently, we have not seen that many surveillance applications per se on a grand scale. They're being used where humans cannot go easily, but something that we'll be looking out for in the future. So in terms of market, we expect it to get to 1.9 billion at a CAGR of 38.2%, fairly high growth market, just like other market. So that was just a very high-level overview of where computer vision is being used today in the industry and how it will shape up in the next 5 years. So really, in our opinion, the technology is maturing. It's ready for takeoff. Market is ready. And those are the three areas that we believe, virtual reality, robotics, and automotive, where there will be a lot of applications coming in the future. Consumer is the largest application segment, simply because there are just too many things that you could do in that segment. Currently, hardware has more value than software, but it may change down the line, but not in the near future. And so overall, we continue to be bullish. We are watching this space, and it should be very interesting next 5 to 10 years for the computer vision community. So that's all I had.
Thank you very much, Anand.